let's talk about Apple's new MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and Mac Mini that just came out. First of all, they put all of the RAM, the T2 chip, the CPU, all on one die, one chip, and put that on the PCB. So you and I would say, oh no, we can't upgrade our RAM. We can't upgrade anything. Anybody that's bought a Apple computer in the last decade, even an iPhone, they don't care about upgrading their computer. So that's not really relevant to Apple anymore. You don't need to, you can't even upgrade storage on these new computers because those are soldered on to the PCB. So I'm not going to complain about that. You know, Apple does what Apple does, you know. What I will mention is the Mac Mini at like $700 and the Mac Air and MacBook Pro at like $1,300. They all have the same CPU, but different prices. Now, I understand the Mac Mini being cheaper. It doesn't have a screen. And apparently they saved a ton of money with the Mac Air because it doesn't have a fan to cool the CPU. So normally I would tell you, oh, always buy the MacBook Pro. And the reason for that is, well, the MacBook typically doesn't have as good a hardware. And the MacBook Air, while not having as good a hardware, also doesn't have any cooling. Generally recommend the MacBook Pro because, you know, it's the most reliable machine. Well, now you don't get any extra hardware. You don't get a better CPU with the MacBook Pro. So why would you spend more money on it? Well, the MacBook Air doesn't have a fan to cool the CPU, so you'll actually get better performance in the MacBook Pro because it's able to keep long sustained loads like DJing, like playing a movie, like editing something, you know. So you'll get better performance, maybe a higher base clock and so on with the CPU. Another thing to note is Adobe will not be available until 2021. It cannot run on the new Mac silicone, Apple silicone, that the AS M1. I think we can assume that Serato also won't be able to run on the AS M1 chip, the CPU, the new CPU from Apple. The cool thing about this is because the memory, the RAM, is on the same chip as the GPU, as the T2, as the CPU, which is the A14 CPU with some more transistors on it because they can cool it, supposedly. So it's the same CPU that's in the iPad Air that came out a few months ago. So the cool thing is, because the GPU and the CPU and the RAM are all on one chip, they can all share the RAM's memory. So now you're getting a ton of video memory on your GPU, so you can actually render huge files, or you could edit huge 8K files. So that's pretty cool, actually. That's pretty cool, Apple. That's some innovation right there. I gotta admit, I was wrong. You guys are killing it. But as far as recommendations would go, I can't recommend that anyone go out and buy a new MacBook Pro for DJing until Serato is able to catch up and develop their Serato program for the new Apple silicone, the AS M1 chip. And that's a problem because Apple is announcing that they are shutting down security or closing down their security more so that third-party apps won't be able to get onto the Apple silicone Macs. But good news is you can put iPhone apps on the Apple silicone Macs. So there's that. So anyway, Serato's going to have to go to Apple and bow down and say, please, will you bless our software? And hopefully Apple will say, oh yeah, sure, we want DJs to use our MacBooks. So yeah, we'll let Serato be in the App Store, which they haven't yet. Not that Serato's tried, because there's no reason to get on the App Store. It just costs money. But now there is a reason to go on the App Store, because you can't sideload apps apparently in macOS anymore, according to Apple's announcement. You may be able to get around that. I'm sure people will figure out a way to get around it, but it's going to be hard because it's Apple's own CPU, so they have full control over what gets installed through that CPU onto your computer. So anyway, just wanted to kind of summarize what I've been watching as far as the new Apple Silicone. Hope this helped.